What is your first impression of what you saw from Trey Lance?
Thought he looked good. It was hot, and I thought he looked. I thought like if I'm not there every single day. I bet you if you asked Trey, he would say that he felt kind of sluggish. He seemed like he was kind of dragging himself through the practice and kind of low energy, but he looked good. I mean, he was pretty much on target. There were a couple that were off target, but for the most part, he looked pretty good. I didn't notice any changes at all in his release or his footwork or his mechanics, though he did seem like he had a nice little rhythm going. I will say this, I'm not impressed by the other quarterbacks they have. I mean, there's nobody else who's throwing the football besides Trey that makes you go, that's interesting. I mean, it's like everybody else didn't look that great, but I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they see in Nate Sudfeld, but that's neither here nor there. With Lance, I would give him a B through the first two practices. I mean, he's completing most of his passes. He's being very smart. He hasn't thrown anything that was even close to intercepted, but he hasn't really had any big plays. And I feel like today, the theme of the day, I don't know if you saw it the same way, was play action shot plays. They were trying to take shots. They were practicing the different rollouts and play action movements, and he didn't hit any of them. Now he checked down, but he couldn't get that part going. I guess it'll come. It's June. What I did like about Trey Lance, and it's been the last two practices, the throws over the middle. The throw to Dwelly today, over the middle. He likes the tight end seam throw between the safeties. He threw that one to Kittle against the Texans, and he hit it last week. He hit it this week. He's very confident throwing that pass, and I'm surprised because last year in training camp, he was sailing the passes over the middle. So he's seemed to improve in that way.
The ball definitely was lower. I didn't see the sail. Right. I thought it was, we still saw some high-speed wobbles, which always make you a little nervous because that's a tough ball to catch. Yep. But overall, I mean, there was no Debo. There was no Kittle. Right. I thought he looked pretty. I mean, to me, Ayuk doesn't look like he's in training camp shape yet. He looks like he's in off-season shape.
Agreed. And
I expect him to look faster and leaner and quicker this summer than he looked today.
We're going to talk about that in a minute, but that kind of stands out. I have a little stat. We're going to get to him in a minute, but Trey Lance was 8 of 10 when not targeting Brandon Ayuk today. He was 1 of 4 when targeting Ayuk. So something's off with that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But again, I think Ayuk I'd like him to be a little more aggressive. I think he knows all eyes are on him. He knows that everyone's going to be reporting his completion percentage at the end of every practice, and I think he's being a little conservative. I'd like to see him take some shots, make some big plays. He hasn't done it yet. But he's had some nice throws. The one to Ayuk across the field to the left, the one to Dwelly up the seam, those were nice. Those were the two standouts today. Otherwise, kind of safe.
I thought he threw a nice pass to on the sideline to Tay Martin, who kind of plucked it with his hands and looked really quick and showed some ball skills. That was one that I saw. I mean, Trey looked okay to me. I'm more about, are you in shape? Right. And then you can look good. I don't know that I look at any of these mini camp practices as you can look bad unless you're really off target, you're dropping passes, you're fumbling the football, you're horribly out of shape. I didn't see anybody in that category, but he looked good, but he looked a little lethargic. It was hot out there today, I'll say that.
I'd like to see him look a little better. He looks better than Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, but that's not ultimately the bar. People are going to be comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. The Niners gave up 3 first-round picks for this guy and sat him a year. For example, he had Marcus Johnson open deep. I thought Johnson had at least a step on Ambry Thomas. Had Lance led Johnson to the middle of the field and thrown it out in front, I think it's a touchdown. Instead, it was kind of behind Johnson and a little bit underthrown, and it allowed Ambry Thomas to break it up. And it's not a terrible throw, but I mean, that's why you're transitioning from Jimmy to Trey to hit something like that. And I know it's a low percentage throw, but I don't know. I'd like to see him hit those eventually.
I would be more concerned, Grant, if Marcus was on the team last year and they were because he wasn't on the team last year. And so, and
I don't know who that is.
Well, and he actually, it's funny. He's actually stood out to me. He wore number 6, I think, in practice, and he actually stood out to me. He looks like he can get separation. He looks like a deep threat. I would not be surprised if Marcus Johnson is contending for a deep threat spot on this roster. We didn't see Danny Gray today, but I kind of like Johnson, the fact that he got separation. But I would just chalk that up to, seriously, the number of reps that Trey and Marcus have together has got to be very minimal.
Like 2.